Tandem Nomads, episode 220.
It took me a couple of years to overcome my fear of being the face of my business. As the expression says, sometimes you are your worst enemy. I couldn't agree more because I know I was my own for a while.
Hello, Nomad Nation. Welcome to Tandem Nomads, the podcast show and entrepreneurship platform where you can find great inspiration and tips to grow a successful portable business and thrive in your global nomadic life. This is your host, Emel Deregi. Today, I want to talk about something very original and new about some kind of business model that you could make portable. But I also want to talk about this alternative solutions that could exist if you want to build a business that does not require from you to show your face and be the brand of your face. However, there is a twist to this at the end of this episode. We will talk about that, about all the mindset and the things that might stop you from actually seeing that maybe putting yourself out there is the solution for you. So in order to talk about these big topics, I brought to you a great friend of mine who has been truly inspiring to watch in her entrepreneurial journey, Susan. Susan, are you ready for this ride?
I'm so ready. Thank you so much for having me to talk about my journey on this show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here, and thank you for taking the time for it. I know how busy you are. And Nomad Nation, let me just introduce you real quick to Susan. So Susan Dib is a civil engineer. She has a master in international business and is a certified green project manager. Since 2005, she has lived in 3 continents as an expat spouse and is now located in New York, where she launched her e-commerce businesses and developed her expertise in digital marketing. Also, she co-founded New York, a New York City certified owned business enterprise in the fields of branding and creative design, where she holds the position of business developer. Hey, Suzanne, what a journey you've been through. I can't wait to dissect all of this.
Well, it sounds really surprising when you hear it from someone else.
It's so funny because it's not the first time I hear that. Oh my God. So, okay, let's back up a little bit. I wanted to talk today about, what are the solutions when we don't want to show our face, right? But you also have an amazing story as an expat partner and as an entrepreneur. And I would love you if you could, before, just give us a little bit of an overview of what got you to start a business as a solution to your career, and how did you end up with e-commerce?
Sure. I guess my story is similar to so many expat spouses who had no other choice but to reinvent themselves. As you mentioned, I was a civil engineer before hopping on this expat lifestyle and before having kids. But I knew I wouldn't be able to continue. And honestly, I didn't want to continue as an engineer. I just wanted to take my time being with my kids and help them and help myself, of course, adapt in every country we moved to, especially when we moved to countries where I couldn't speak the language, like Spain. But to make the long story short, and after after 11 years, my kids became somehow independent. And that year I decided that it's about time to do something for myself. I always wanted to own a business, but with this constant moving, I had to think of something that I could carry with me in my suitcase. This idea was actually born during my master's studies in a career development session when the professor evaluated my situation, and she told me, "You have to carry your business in a suitcase." You see, a coaching business would be perfect, but I'm not a coach type of a person, so that business type was not an option. And I always wanted to have a business that sells products. But to open a traditional brick and mortar business was not possible either, unless someday we settle down in a country for good. So the only way to do it would be online. And after much research, I found out about the drop shipping model.
And we're going to talk about that. I love how good you're at introducing the topic, by the way. So Nomad Nation, I want to talk about this real quick. I love how Susan brought all the aspects and the elimination of, I don't want to, I want to build a product-based business and I need to do it online. But I would just want to share here that I always say some online businesses are portable and others are not. So every online business is not portable, but every portable business should have an online component. And drop shipping is something that we're going to talk that is an alternative for e-commerce, because traditionally e-commerce is that you produce a product and you sell it online. So that means that you need to have a inventory, you have to have a taxation system, etc. Also to think about. So a lot of complications when you have your e-commerce that you manage on your own. But nowadays we have the concept of drop shipping. So we're going to talk about what drop shipping is and why is it helpful to make your business portable. But before, I want to talk a little bit about tell us a bit more about your journey and what kind of businesses did you start online?
Sure. So I have an e-commerce business based on the dropshipping model that focuses on selling kids stuff, mainly toys and clothes. My online shop is a social business as well, where part of my revenue goes to support some causes that me and my kids believe in, like donating to kids' cancer hospitals, Pencils of Promise in Africa, and feeding hungry kids in some parts of the world. I got that idea because I wanted so badly to do something for my kids. I wanted to start something so that when they are old enough, they can jump in and take over. So right from the get-go, I got my kids involved so that they can feel that they are like part of this adventure, and to also take it seriously and have some responsibility towards the business itself and towards giving back to the community.
This is so powerful. This is really, really powerful. So, can you explain real briefly why was the e-commerce the solution for you? Because I remember we were talking together. You were saying, "I don't want to be the face of my business" at the time. We're talking about that later.
Right.
But where do you see the advantage of e-commerce and how it avoids you being the face of your business?
So for me, I can tell you why I didn't want to be the face of my business, because it's a personal story. Because when I first moved to the States, there was definitely a social stigma surrounding veiled women.
Oh, for those who are listening that might not see you, actually, can you? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they would see the picture of me at the beginning of your, newsletter. Or so I am a hijabi woman. I'm half Jordanian, half German, and I'm a woman of color for so many people. I'm considered a woman of color. So before, like when I came to the States, I've heard so many negative stories of how hijabi women are perceived. And because of that, I unfortunately built like a wall around myself. Mm-hmm. I got to the point that I was only confident hiding behind a screen, assuming that people just don't want to do business with me because of the way I choose to dress. So I created these limitations for myself. And because I felt that I constantly had to be wary. This, like the fear factor that is abused by the media, affects everyone. So that was mainly the reason why I wanted to hide behind the screen and start this e-commerce and online business.
This is interesting. I want to dig deeper into that because this is a topic that's near to my heart. But the first step, before you identified this as a limiting belief, because you're telling us this was a limiting belief for you at the time.
Yes.
But before you realized that, you actually turned that challenge that you saw as a challenge into an opportunity by creating an e-commerce business where your face was not visible, right? You could run it from online. So first of all, you started this from scratch. You didn't know anything about e-commerce when you started this. Tell us, how did you get to learn how to do this?
Well, I started from scratch, as you said. I knew nothing about it. Although during my master's in international business, I learned about, strategies and marketing for expanding into like internationally, but there was nothing specifically for e-commerce. But then YouTube and Google is your best friend when you want to start learning new skills and get information. Of course, I also invested in a lot of online courses. Some of them are good. Some of them you learn afterwards that you paid money for nothing. But this is how I started. And before actually starting the e-commerce itself, I don't know, because maybe this is my engineering brain that I need to test, and then go out there to feel more confident. So I tested a lot of products. I tested the website a lot. I tested the concept a lot just to make myself confident that, yes, this is something I want to do.
This is so good. Testing is so important. And I think it's really great that you have the scientific brain that's used to testing. In my online courses, I teach how to actually test your products because I think
Mhm.
it's so much better than going full force investing and then losing everything because you realize that there's no market for this or that it's actually not working for you. So this is such a good key point that you're bringing this out. Thank you
Exactly.
for that. So, okay, you learn on your own, you test it. Now, I remember when we met a few years ago, it was not yet completely drop shipping. And I
Mhm.
would love you if you could share a little bit of your experience of the disadvantages of e-commerce when it's not portable. Could you tell us more about that?
Yes, sure. I mean, if you have an e-commerce where it's not based on drop shipping, one of the biggest challenges is would be to buy a lot of inventory in advance, and that could mean that you need to have like a lot of capital, and you need to have a warehouse if you're not using your own house or apartment to store those products. So for me, that was not something that I wanted to do because of the uncertainty of my husband's job, where we like every couple of months or every, let's say, 6 months, they would tell us, oh, there's a chance that you might be moving to other countries. So I didn't want to go into that model. And I just right from the beginning, I wanted to have a model where I don't have to deal with stock or any inventory.
A lot of people say, oh, I just started an online business and then I'll do it from wherever I go. And it's not necessarily possible when we have such a type of e-commerce. So can you
Right.
explain then what is drop shipping and how is it solving this problem?
Sure. Drop shipping basically means I don't keep products I sell on my website in stock. Instead, I purchase the item from a third party. Usually, it would be a wholesaler or a manufacturer who then ships it directly to the customer, which means I don't have to ever touch or store the product in a warehouse, as I said before. But the best part is that I get paid first from the client, and then I order that product from the supplier. If you the customer comes to the website, makes an order, I get paid, and then depending on the quantity or the orders I received on that day, I would send it to the supplier and he would fulfill the order on my behalf.
This is it sounds like a dream, right? All you have to do is bring the client to your website.
And of course, you need to do the customer service as well. Yeah, that's a part of your e-commerce or online business, customer service.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear more, like if you can give us more insights on like tips on drop shipping. But before even getting to that, I think it's important to also realize that we have to find those companies who do that. So, like, first of all, who sell the type of products you want to sell and
Yeah.
then manage it. So is it two different things, like the provider of the good versus the one who does the logistics? How does that work?
So suppliers can be from anywhere in the world. At the beginning, I had suppliers from China. After a couple of weeks, I started getting negative feedback from the customers that, because as drop shipping, I never touch the product, so it goes directly to the customer. I received a couple of emails from clients telling me that the product is not what they expected, and then I ordered the product myself from the supplier to find out that that was actually true. The quality is not as the way they advertised it on their website. So I completely stopped working with suppliers from China. Not that all suppliers from China are going to have this issue, but maybe what I did wrong was I did not search enough or look for reliable suppliers. So because I know in my group there are plenty of entrepreneurs who are still doing or dealing with Chinese suppliers, and they're doing just great. But my mistake was that maybe I didn't I did not search it enough. So I switched to working with US suppliers and European suppliers. The way I do it is just I use my good old friend Google. I Google wholesale drop shippers, and you would get a bunch of platforms, some for free and some you have to pay an annual membership to get a list of suppliers or wholesalers who actually provide drop shipping services. Whereas when it comes to European suppliers, New York is very famous of having trade shows. That's, of course, before COVID. So I went to every trade show you can imagine. And from there, I would find suppliers, I would connect with them, I would build this relationship, and then we would start working on drop shipping.
This is really interesting. So is there a lot of companies who are suppliers in terms of production of the product and doing the drop shipping?
Yes, you can find plenty, but you always need to find reliable ones. Like, for example, when you do Google and you find a supplier that promises to deliver drop shipping, and it makes it easy for you to create this partnership or this contract very easy and very fast, this is a red flag for me, because those ones are usually not reliable. You would want, as though it looks controversy, but you would want to work with someone who makes it really hard for you to become a buyer for them, because that means that they actually are reliable enough and they provide the best services for dropshipping, and they are not scammers.
That's such a good advice here. So good. And could you tell us about, like, once you have found your suppliers, actually, it's a continuous work. What I understand is that finding suppliers is kind of part of the full-time job, is continuously looking at those and testing and until you find the right relationship, and then you make it continuous. But initially you had an e-commerce platform with your own website where people would go to buy, correct? Am I wrong?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you decided to shift to Amazon.
Right.
Or do both? I'm not too sure.
Do both at the same time. So I started on a platform called Shopify. I'm not sure if you are aware of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
Shopify
you can explain.
Yeah. So Shopify is a subscription-based commerce platform that allows anyone to set up an online store and sell their products, even if you have very little skill or no skill at all. I mean, at the beginning, I didn't know anything, but it's so usually that anyone can start. A good and free resource I always recommend is the Shopify blog. The blog covers everything you need to know about starting an e-commerce business, and it describes what the dropshipping model is, how to start it step by step. So it's a very good resource.
We'll check that out. So Nomad Nation, we will put the links of all the resources we'll mention in this episode. To find them, go to tandemnomads.com/220. So we will probably mention even more resources. So Shopify is definitely the place to go, especially if you're a beginner. And even if you're not, and you don't want to have to create your own website, using Shopify is an amazing platform for that. So they are the leaders in drop shipping in the market. I don't know if you would agree.
Definitely. I love their customer service. It's 24/7 customer service. Whether you work in the States or in Europe, they're always there to help you. And it's a very user-friendly as well.
Love it. Okay, so Shopify, definitely a place to check. Is there other places you recommend to go learn and educate ourselves in drop shipping solutions?
Sure. I mean, I'm sure you heard of Udemy. There are also all kinds of, courses there to teach you about drop shipping, about Shopify. Some are very low cost. Some are, I think a couple of them are for free at the beginning. And then you have also, there's another guy who is like the guru of dropshipping. I forgot the website, but something about dropshipping. I'll also give you the link for it. It's a high ticket course, but they explain if you want to have the fast track, I also recommend them because they take you from not knowing anything about dropshipping into having your own store set up and ready to run in a couple of weeks.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to put the links. We'll collect all the resources you have and put them in the show notes of this episode.
Excellent.
Thank you for that. So one more part of this whole work of being an e-commerce entrepreneur and using drop shipping, at some point you need to get traffic to your website. Like Shopify and all these platforms are giving you everything you need to make it work, but ultimately you have to attract the clients.
Exactly.
What have you done to do that?
I mean, for me, that was the hardest part of having an online business, which was driving traffic. But with the help of Facebook and Instagram, I was able to drive traffic organically or through paid ads. That was the biggest challenge for me at the beginning, is to learn how to create successful Facebook ads and to scale them. Because as you know, Facebook algorithm is constantly changing. What works now might not work in 6 months. So you have to constantly learn how to create successful Facebook ads.
Yeah. And any resources there that you recommend for that?
Again, YouTube, there are a lot of Facebook groups that teach you about Facebook ads. I can also give you the links as well for these groups to join. They are free to join, but they would give me like 50% free. But then at some point when you get stuck, you might need to upgrade. Depending if you want to do it, you might need to upgrade and buy their course.
Yeah. In general, whenever we're serious and want to commit, I think it's always better to go and invest. As long as we do the research and trust this person that's providing the course, I always think that that's the best, safest place to go. I mean, how much can we have for free, right? And I think the free stuff are good to actually start warming up and making sure this is really what we want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for all these resources. We will put them in the show notes of this episode. So, all right. So you've been doing all of that. You've been developing and you're still working on it. And actually you decided to switch to Amazon. I'm curious to know what made you do that?
I'm always curious about how things work in the e-commerce world. So, and plus, I must confess that I have been bitten by the shiny object syndrome. So whenever I see something, I like to try it just for my own knowledge. And if I see it works, then I can combine it. So for me, it was that I wanted to expand to Amazon because, you know, Amazon is the biggest e-commerce platform out there. And I wanted to, because Shopify gives you the option to connect your store with Amazon. But before connecting, you need to first understand how Amazon, which is called FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon, works. So I, again, invested in that. And I started like 6 months ago to test Amazon. And now I want to connect my Shopify store to my store on Amazon and make them all under one name at some point.
Very interesting. So what is the benefit that you see in Amazon?
In Amazon, the only thing is like it's not really 100% portable as a beginner. At some point, it might become portable, but to learn how to do FBA, first you need to buy the inventory yourself and ship it to Amazon. That means you need to have space in your house to get all these products in, label them, package them, and then send it to Amazon warehouse so that they, on your behalf, send it to the customer. That's the best way to start. And then later on, once you master all the ins and outs of Amazon FBA, you can actually ask your supplier, your wholesale supplier, to send the product directly to Amazon. So again, that becomes now portable because you don't have to touch the product. Your wholesaler will send the whole inventory to Amazon without you having to deal with anything. And Amazon will do all the labeling, will do all the, the storage and sending it to your client. You just have to, check in every day, see if there are customer complaints and see if there's any returns and deal with that stuff.
You said your job is basically everything related to clients, attracting them and then making sure they're happy and taking care of them once they buy and making sure that everything's fine.
Right.
So yeah, I love how clearly you explain everything, Susan. It's so good. And my final question about this part, because I want to talk about all the mindset stuff, that I love those things. But I do think that you're providing such great information here that I don't want to miss it for those who are interested in considering e-commerce. What did you say about Amazon? What's the term?
It's called FBA, which means Fulfillment by Amazon.
Okay, so we'll be able to put some information on that as well, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good. So Nomad Nation, as I said, tandemnomads.com/220, and we'll put all of that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, your product. You are not selling any kind of things, right? You had a strategy of the type of product you wanted to sell. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you actually sell online?
In my Shopify store, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I sell kid stuff, mainly toys and clothes. Like for example, I had at the beginning, I was selling these high ticket items, these Mercedes cars with remote control where kids can sit in and drive. Each one would cost like $500. And because I wanted to do something special to my clients and take that extra step, I actually delivered those items myself. And like, for example, if I know that this item is a birthday gift, I would buy a birthday gift. And I would buy a birthday card and I would write a message for that boy or girl and deliver it myself. My clients just love this. Until, unfortunately, some scammers found out about my website and they would buy that item. I would deliver it. And after a couple of weeks, they would do a chargeback. So, and in 1 month, I had like 4 chargebacks of $2,000 of delivered items that I couldn't claim back. So for me, that was a lesson I learned. At that moment, I discontinued selling this item. And I also stopped selling any high ticket item. For me now, what is ideal is to sell product price which is between $20 and $60, because chargeback, as much as it's part of any e-commerce, but if you are a small business and you get this amount of chargeback, it can really hurt your business.
Yeah, it's difficult. This is quite shocking. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Is it now easier to manage with Shopify, like with drop shipping? Because your example was before you did drop shipping. Does drop shipping help in any way with that kind of issues too?
I mean, that was during the drop shipping.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because only in Brooklyn, I was delivering that item to my clients. As I told you, I wanted to do this extra thing with my clients and get to know my clients. But yeah, so then I stopped completely, and now everything goes directly from the supplier to the client.
Okay. And you also had a vision around this. It's not like you were selling any kind of toys. I remember you were telling me the story behind this e-commerce. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I mean, as I told you, I wanted my e-commerce to be also a social a social business. So I would partner with suppliers who had a story, who their products, for example, are doing good in this world, like whether it's from recyclable material, whether it's they are giving back to some charities and stuff like that. So I always try to focus on suppliers who are genuine, authentic, and have a story to share.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And you also wanted to leave a legacy for your children. And we were talking about how you've built this thinking of leaving it as a legacy for your daughter and another business
Yes.
that you started. This is another story, another episode
Yes.
for your son as well. So can you
Mhm.
talk about a little bit about that as well? Like, how did you think of how your businesses could be a legacy for your children?
Yeah, as I told you, I always wanted to do something for my kids. I know that they are consuming a lot of screen time. They're like, especially now during COVID, but my whole business thing started before COVID. They're constantly, consuming YouTube and social media and you name it.
Mm.
And for me, it became frustrating. And I said, okay, since they are consuming that much screen time, why not to try to make it a positive thing? Why not to try to distract them from what they're watching to actually something that's going to be educational for them, and at the same time try to build this foundation of them becoming like entrepreneurs one day. So that's why I started these two businesses for my kids, and I am making them involved just from the beginning. Like they sit with me and we choose which products we want to sell. In my Amazon business, for example, my girl she loves it when I receive products and we package them together, we label them together. It's for her, it's so much fun and she likes it. So this is what I wanted to give them. I wanted them to, when they are ready, to have something that they don't have to start from scratch. I wanted to give it to them and to be there to help them and to support whatever they want to do with this business later on.
So inspiring. For those of you Nomad Nation who are listening, if you've been listening many episodes that I always talk about the importance of having a vision and a big why behind whatever you do, even if it's through e-commerce and selling products, having a vision is what drives you. And I remember in the tough days when we were talking, Suzanne, that's, I feel like what kept you going. Am I
It
wrong?
is. It is. For me, it's not about making money. Of course, it's always an important aspect of doing business, as much as I want to have something for my kids. Nobody knows what the future is gonna look like for them in 10 years, 15 years. Most of the jobs we know might not exist anymore. So just in case, I wanted to have something in case they they can take and continue without having to struggle the same way I had to struggle starting from scratch. So that what this is what is keeping me going every time I have a setback.
It's amazing. So inspiring. So this is your journey with e-commerce and especially with drop shipping and the big vision that you had behind it. But as we started at the beginning of this conversation, you started this because you didn't want to start a business where you were the face of the business. And real side note here about social media, when you were mentioning social media, that you were not on those pictures. It was pictures of products and what you were selling, but you were never like putting yourself out there on social media either, correct?
Correct. That's correct. I never had my face there. I mean, at the beginning, I also did not promote my business to my friends and to my network. I was not feeling confident. I preferred doing everything behind the screen without anybody knowing what I was doing. I had built that wall around myself, and I confess I created this limiting belief for myself.
All right. So let's talk about that now, because I do think that e-commerce, Shopify, and drop shipping are an amazing solution for those who don't want to have a business where they're the face of the business. And I can understand that, but it's important. And Nomad Nation, if you're in that situation, to distinguish a decision that's clear because of practical reasons that you want, you don't want, versus you fearing to putting yourself out or having some limiting beliefs. And that's where we want to challenge you today, Susan and I. So could you please tell us a bit more about what are those beliefs that you had that stop you from actually wanting to be, even sharing what you were doing on e-commerce to your friends? This is quite something.
Yeah, as I told you, it's all because I was not sure that people wanted to do business with me
Hmm.
because of the way I chose to dress. But lucky enough, I was like so lucky to have people from New York welcome me with open arms, especially in Brooklyn. I was able to feel confident in myself because I had people who tried to understand me and understand my background. That same way I tried to understand them.
Hmm.
But it took me a couple of years, to overcome that fear.
Hmm.
Because you see, I left everything I knew about engineering to open an online business that I haven't done before. And on top of the adaptation challenge that expats have to go through, I, on the other hand, had to push myself out of my comfort zone to learn new skills, and to know how to run a business in a foreign country.
Hmm. It's very difficult. And if we may, I don't want to talk too much about this either, but I think it's important for people to know how difficult it can be for women wearing hijab, even in a Western country, in a city like New York. I remember, if you want to mention a little bit, I think your first experience was not that easy until you moved to Brooklyn. And actually, I think the reason you moved to Brooklyn was because of that. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I was in this whole white bubble thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everybody would ask me, my kids go to a German school because as I told you, I am half German. And I wanted my kids to have the German education in every country we go to. So the first question I would always get, like people would look at me and they would say, why exactly are your kids going to a German school? And
Mm.
I was like, okay, here it goes. And I would like turn it, like make a sarcastic out of it and say, oh, you don't see my blue eyes. You can't figure out that I'm half German. And they would all look at me like, what? You're half German? It's like, yeah, I am half German. So that at some point it got so annoying because if you're not, let's put it this way, if you're not white and blonde with blue eyes, you don't fit.
Mm.
And that made me decide to move to Brooklyn. And lucky enough, in Brooklyn, I honestly feel like I'm home. um, I don't know what it is about Brooklyn, but the more different you are, the more accepted you are, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why it was part of building my confidence. It was after moving to Brooklyn.
Think it's important for people to know, what is the real stories. We don't hear that, I'm
Mhm.
sure you haven't shared that a lot when you were
No,
struggling with that, right?
no, I didn't. It was always something like, um, first of all, if people don't ask, I don't share.
Mm.
Um, and then, like only recently, I started, thinking about this diversity thing.
Hmm.
And actually, I have a funny story to share.
Yeah.
Um, like a couple of months ago, I was scrolling down a website for women entrepreneurs named we.nyc, which is funded by the city mayor de Blasio. And then I saw a photo of a veiled woman on that website. And I thought to myself, there's a lot of diversity in that picture. And after a closer look, I noticed that that woman on that website was actually me at a conference I attended a couple of years ago.
Oh my God.
Exactly. But it took me a couple of seconds, like, oh my God, that's actually me, you know?
Oh
And
my
for
God.
me, that was my aha moment. I took that as a sign to really come out of my shell and be the face of my business. This is exactly when I decided, you know what? I'm gonna become the face of my business.
Oh my God, Susan, I'm having chills all over my body right now. I did not know this story. I'm actually almost emotional. This is so powerful. I mean, this is a sign. This was a sign. And the fact that the only woman you said, oh, finally somebody like me. And then you realize it's actually you.
Exactly. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I sent it to my family and like, look who's there on the website. And I even reached out to them to express my gratitude to them, to
Mhm.
this We NYC. And because, I've always felt underrepresented in conferences and meetings. I never saw someone I could relate to. And
Mhm.
I don't want others to feel that same way. So for me, this was something that now like the diversity thing, I'm just tapping into that.
Wow. Okay. So tell us once that happened, that aha moment, what did you decide to do?
So I'm not sure if you know that in 2019 my business became a woman certified enterprise in New York City. That means like you get to compete for those bids and contracts where they actually ask for women-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And
Just to back up a little
yeah,
bit, one
yeah,
thing that happened before that is that you started another business where you,
e-
yeah,
yeah.
can you introduce
Actually,
that
yeah,
one first?
yeah, of course. No, but actually, that certification I had before I started this new
Oh,
business. Yeah,
oh, interesting. Okay.
that was in 2019. But by the end of 2020, which is not long ago, I partnered up with a design and branding agency and launched Vicoms New York. In that business, I chose to focus on business development as it's an area that I wanted to develop more, both in business and in skill. So this is what basically I'm focused on, which is growing my design and branding agency.
Mm, okay. Sorry. So now I understand better. So you were first registered into this initiative in the city for diversity.
Yes.
And the click was that you saw yourself, and that's when you said, I want to be part of this. And that
Mhm.
led you to start this consulting company now.
It's not consulting, it's
It's
like design. It's consulting for branding. You can say sometimes we do consultation for design and branding.
okay. And how did that business work? Can you tell me more about that?
Because you know me, I'm always a person who needs to have a plan A, B, and C.
I always joke with Susan. She said, no, 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 it's not A, B, and C. It's A to Z.
Exactly. It's so funny when you say it. I always laugh when you say it. And I always need to have this backup plan
Mhm.
in case I move to another country. And what if Shopify is not accepted in that country, or what if e-commerce does not work? So over the past 4 years, I was doing this part-time thing, working with or supervising, not working, but supervising um, a design and branding agency, which is called Vicoms International. They are based in Greece and in Qatar. And because we had this nice relationship, after 4 years, they approached me and they said, you know what, we would like you to represent us in New York and be officially become Vicoms New York. So this is how it happened.
This is amazing. So inspiring. What a journey. Like, if we have to think of one resource for women, you definitely are one. So much
Thank you.
resources. So yeah, I know that it's this diversity topic has become a huge part of your life now. So can
Yes,
you tell us more about that? Because it seems like it really shook you to your core to realize that what you call limiting beliefs, I believe that they
right,
were founded on reality, but you
right.
just let it stop you. So what are you doing now? Why are you saying that now you're coming out of your shell? In which way?
As I told you, that aha moment, I took it as a sign to really come out of my shell and be the face of my business. And I thought of the comfort I felt when I first saw a veiled woman on that website. and use that to give myself the confidence to try and empower other minority women. You see, I've always felt underrepresented, and I never saw someone I could relate to, and I don't want others to feel that same way. So, on top of running a woman owned business, I am a woman of color to so many people and a hijabi woman. And there are plenty of others like me that have ambitions and dreams. So, if I could inspire just one person, then I would feel accomplished.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Susan. And I hope that those of you who are listening, if you are feeling that way, that today's story has inspired you to realize that you can take action. So, Susan, you're doing such an important work here, such important. And I'm pretty sure that maybe a few years ago, you might have not wanted to be on the show, and today you accept it. And I have the feeling it has to do with that, doesn't it? We didn't talk about that, you and me, before, but I have the feeling that today you're more ready than before to be on a podcast and share your story, and your picture will be on the website now.
That's
Is that the
definitely,
thought? Is that the thought behind saying yes to this episode?
it's definitely true. I mean, if maybe you asked me a couple of years ago to share my story, I would be like, no, I don't feel okay. What if, like, all these questions or that inner voice that I used to tell myself, you know? But I've personally finally learned that diversity is such a beautiful thing. Diversity in friendships, in languages, in culture, and in skills is so beautiful. I look at it differently now, and I consider myself lucky because diversity, as hard as it was at the beginning to be different, it allowed me to grow into the woman I am today. So for that, I'm really grateful.
Oh my God. There's no better way to end this very inspiring episode. Thank you so, so much, Susan. And what is the best place to find you if you want to connect with you?
On LinkedIn, I'm always active on LinkedIn. You can message me. I'll give you also the link to my LinkedIn, and I can also give you my email for anyone who would like to, know more about dropshipping or know more about my new venture. I'll be more than happy to share.
Thank you so much, Susan. So, Nomad Nation, I'll put all the information of Susan in the show notes of this episode on tandemnomads.com/220. I hope that you were inspired, whether you want to show your face or not, whether you are ready to get out of your comfort zone or not, that this episode brought you a lot of inspiration in many, many different ways. Susan, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here and share your truly inspiring story.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for giving me the platform to share my story, and I hope it is inspiring and helpful to some expat spouses out there.
Thank you so much. Nomad Nation, stay tuned to turn your challenges into great opportunities, just like Susan did here.